Okay, my name is David Hartful. I'm here to talk to you about Memenomics, the book by Saeed Dawlabani. So Saeed Dawlabani, he has an economics degree and background, but he worked as a real estate broker and investor. And so his wife, Eliza Malouf, was the co-founder of the Center of Human Emergence in the Middle East with Don Beck. And Don Beck's the person who, from the last video, that wrote the Crucible. So Don Beck actually asked him to do a talk on spiral dynamics and the housing market. And since Mr. Dawlabani had been helping out Elise a lot, he learned a lot about aerodynamics, and he decided to do a small talk about how ego development affected the housing market. Don Beck was so impressed, he encouraged Mr. Dawlabani to write a book. And the book is Memenomics. And the book actually explains a lot more than just the housing crisis. It actually gives you a retelling of economic history using spiral dynamics. So spiral dynamics is an ego development theory. It consists of different stages that people and societies go through that have different value centers. And so these value centers we call memes. And memes rhymes with genes. And just as genes hold data for your physical characteristics, memes hold data for your cultural characteristics. These memes are naturally in people. And as life conditions progress and different problems come about and different successes come about, the memes come online. And they always come online in the same order. And we're going to go through that order later in the talk. But you'll see how the life conditions every time cause the next meme to manifest. And the name Memenomics comes from the concatenation of the word meme and economics. And one of the great things about the study of Memenomics, it moves economics past simply just a mechanical or mathematical interpretation of data. It actually puts more of the human soft skills back into it to actually give better predictions and pull out and make more of a higher order view or a wider view than what they're usually used to seeing in economics. And this is basically the study of how values influence economics and economics influence values. So these are the stages of development in Memenomics. The first stage is beige, and it is the pursuit of periodic physical needs: food, sex, sleep, and hunger. And you use habituation to solve the problems of food, sex, sleep, and hunger. Because man at this stage is so rudimentary and less complex, there's not much of an economics going on at this point. But after a while, different bands form, and the bonds from the bands become stronger and stronger. That leads to the next meme, which is purple or tribalistic. So the economics in this meme is controlled by the barter system because money hasn't been developed yet. And decisions are made communally by the elders, and the elders use divine inspiration as the input to make the decision. But as the barter system starts going on, people don't just trade within their tribe, they trade outside their tribe. And once they start trading outside their tribe, and they see that every different tribe has their own little superstitions and totems and taboos, that brings on the next meme, which is people start asserting themselves as individuals and going after what they want without abandon. So that's the red meme. And so the red meme in the book is characterized in two different ways. The world history way they characterized it is the time of emperor's coin. So in this meme, money is coined precious metals that actually the weight of them is the value of the precious metal and the coin. And the other way they they characterize it is through the time of fiefdoms of power in the United States, times of captains of industry, the 1900s, 1920s era, where you had like the Carnegies and the Rockefellers basically just making their own little fiefdoms where nobody could stop them from doing what they want to do. And as the red meme always does, it uses force to hold people in check and keep order. So in the emperor's time, they had slave revolts that they would put down. In the captains of industry time, fiefdoms of power time, they'd have strikes. And in South Africa, they had Jan Smuts put them down with violence. In America, we had the Pinkertons put them down with violence. So that's just a normal part of the meme. So as you said before, it's about force and control. So decisions here are made by the most powerful person, and he just dictates down to the people what he wants done. And they're done basically because he has enough power to keep people in line, to keep them doing what he needs them to do. Or she needs them to do either. So after a while, the unhealthy red causes so much damage, people organize and fight back. So in America, that's the time we started these labor unions. And the labor unions got enough power to eventually appeal to government. And then once they had this power in government, they could actually control and keep the corporations in check and make sure they had rights and benefits and whatnot. So in the red meme, you had a bunch of peasants or lowly workers barely scraping by, barely able to survive. You move to the next meme, which is the blue meme, which is patriotic prosperity. So in this meme, the worker is seen as a consumer that's going to buy the goods of the corporation. So it's in the corporation's best interest to pay them a living wage so they can go back and consume and increase the profits of the corporation. So money in this meme is legal tender. So it's paper money, and they have the gold in a reserve at a national bank. So the nation keeps control of the actual gold reserves, and they let the legal tender circulate. In the blue meme, you also have a superordinate goal, which means that there's a goal that's greater than just making money. So in America, that was the winning of World War II and the Cold War. So since we had that uniting belief that we have to fight and save the free world, that made business not just simply go for profit, but go for higher production and making the best life for the people around us. So this meme is characterized by government intervention and government control. So the government from the New Deal to about 1980 had enough power to really control these corporations, making sure that they pay the people enough money, that they aren't being predatory. They had enough power to regulate the banks to make sure they don't gamble with our money. And that worked for New Deal to about the Jimmy Carter era. But after a while, business became too constrained, and they wanted more freedom. So that brought about the next meme, which is the orange meme. And that's the only money matters meme. Now, before I go to the next meme, I want to take a quick time out to go over the gold standard, because a lot of people talk about this. I used to be a big Ron Paul follower when I was younger. So a lot of people want to go back to the gold standard. I hear a lot of black nationalists talking about the gold standard, and the dollar soon fall, and the people with actual gold will be the ones that have money. So the gold standard really is an arbitrary way to determine your money supply. Because in reality, what makes gold better than silver or platinum or copper? So to arbitrarily link your money supply to a gold reserve would just constrain your money supply for no real practical reason. So ideally, money should represent the amount of production in society. So if you went back to the gold standard, whatever country has the largest gold reserve or gold mine is automatically the richest country in the world. So a third world country with a large gold reserve would be richer than like Norway or Korea, and Korea makes all the gadgets we need to survive now. So that's just an arbitrary thing that would cause more damage than it would good. And the market would eventually correct and fix that discrepancy anyway. So Mr. Dawlabani, he believes that money should be based on human productive output. So as we calculate GDP now, we calculate the amount of productivity within the country. And then we quantify it and assign it a monetary value and then dole out that. And that would be the control of the money supply. It wouldn't be just arbitrarily connecting it to gold. And then as soon as we buy more gold, that would be, more money. So going back to the memes, the next meme is the only money matter meme. And that was Reagan up until now. And money in this meme is issued fiat money. And fiat, it's easy to remember that fiat money is money based on faith in the government. Now, fiat in Latin means let it be done, but I always remember it as faith money, as in faith in the government. So in this meme, we have a hierarchy, but the hierarchy is a lot more flexible than it was in red. Whereas before we had red, we had the hierarchy, and then we had a hierarchy, but a government in charge to make sure they can't go too far. This time we have a flexible hierarchy where subordinates can give feedback to their bosses, and bosses can give feedback to their subordinates. But the negative side of this is so-called innovative financial services or financial structures. So once you have this fiat money, people sometimes take the concept too far. And so in the housing market, you had the securitization of the actual mortgages. So they would take the mortgages, repackage them in CDOs, and then sell them. And then you also had other types of speculation, derivative market coming about, where it was just various bets on, just keep betting on different commodities coming up and the prices of them. So it does circulate more money in society, but the actual productivity didn't change. But the money is counted as economic growth that's in these derivative markets. But the derivatives even make the market more volatile and they make things even worse. So as you saw in the housing crisis, eventually the speculation caused enough problems to where the actual asset depreciated, and a lot of people were left holding the bags. They borrowed a bunch of money to buy an asset they couldn't really afford, and the arms start coming in and they can't afford things. And then the next meme coming out of that would be more of the internet businesses, and that meme would be the democratization of information. But before we go into that, I want to talk about the greatest son of the make money only matters meme, and that's Alan Greenspan. So Alan Greenspan was the father was an economist, and his parents divorced when he was really young, and his best childhood memories were of visiting his dad on Wall Street. So his father wrote a book about the end of the Great Depression. So this is around the 1930s, all this is happening. And he dedicated the book to his son. So Alan Greenspan was always involved in the economy and stocks and whatnot. And so Greenspan's graduate school mentor was actually a Fed chairman for, I want to say Eisenhower, or I think it was Eisenhower, it said in the book. I got to check that. But not only did he was he connected to the future Fed chairman under Eisenhower, he was a student of all the neoliberal economists of the time, which was where most economics were at the time. So he expanded off of Adam Smith's work. And many of them believed that as the economy expanded, the low-skill, high-labor jobs would go away, but they would be replaced by high-skill professional jobs. And the transition would happen naturally. So even if people are displaced at the moment, they would just find ways to retrain themselves to the better jobs where they end up making more money. And so they believe that government shouldn't intervene in anything. We should let things play out as they should, and we don't need to always try to manipulate things. And of course, his greatest inspiration was Ayn Rand. And the funniest thing about Ayn Rand is, I'm a Daniel Brandon student also. I read Daniel Brandon. And so Daniel Brandon, Ayn Rand, Greenspan were one of the original people in the group that started the Objectivist philosophy. So there was this Objectivist magazine back in the 60s, I want to say. And there was a collective of people that actually built that philosophy up, and Alan Greenspan was one of those people. That's why when he was inaugurated fair chairman, he had Ayn Rand there with him as one of his best friends. So Ayn Rand, Daniel Brandon, and Greenspan actually were very close friends. They were around each other all the time and were like personal friends. So the thing about Alan Greenspan was he was a true first-tier thinker in that he thought his philosophy, his objectivism, was the solution. So he couldn't see the flaws in his objectivism. And so when the housing market starts coming up and all these crises come up, they ask him what we should do. And he just brings forth more of the same. Now, that wasn't something he did maliciously on his part. It was just the fact that he had spent his whole life being an objectivist, philosophy of objectivism, applying that to economics, which created a neoliberal economist. And that's what led to him not having an answer when the housing market comes up and all these bad things happen. So the next meme is the distribution of knowledge. So this is more of the internet economy. And the internet economy is all about everybody being equal. So in this meme, most of the information and access to outlets is free. So money plays less of a role in it. Even if something's sold, a good portion of the information is given for free so you can test the quality. When other goods are sold, physical goods are sold, the person has all the resources he needs to check all the different prices and quality all over the internet. You could easily go and buy you can easily go and Google different prices and quality and see reviews and see what the best thing is. So in this meme, instead of having to go and get a record deal, you can produce a comedy album at home. And instead of going and having to get a publisher, you could write blogs or you can write a book PDF and sell it online. And even making a physical product, you can buy a 3D printer and just print the 3D print of whatever product is on at home and sell it. So there's not these huge barriers of entry anymore. The few barriers of entry you have can be overcome for a couple $1,000. So another interesting thing about the green meme, bartering comes back. You see that in the Nordic countries. To get around the high taxes, people often will barter instead of paying cash for something. So the problem with this meme is, since everybody has an equal participation, you end up flooding the market with too many like low-level products or low-level services and whatnot. So then you understand you have to bring this hierarchy back. And this time, that creates a momentous leap to the second tier. And then in the second tier, you have yellow meme. And the yellow meme is distributed innovation. So in this meme, it's important to know that instead of having a rigid hierarchy or a flexible hierarchy, a problem is determined, evaluated, and a team of people come together to solve that problem, and they break away afterwards. So if you need to buy a new flower pot, one guy can do that. If you need to renovate a house, an interior designer and a construction person can get together and do that. But to decontaminate the Hudson River, you need a lot more people involved in that with a higher skill level. And you can understand what's needed and what's needed where. So like in the green meme, everybody would just have equal say on how to decontaminate the Hudson River. So you have a guy who would like install windows, have an equal say as a scientist. But in the yellow meme, you could just say that, look, these scientists are people that know, we're going to listen to them and they're going to do what they say. So this meme is focusing on solving a lot of the problems the first tier causes. They see the world as a very fragile living organism that they have to actually work hard to save. So people in this meme understand the technical aspects of the problem they want to solve, but their goals aren't material, they're more spiritual. If they have to sacrifice some material gain, personal material gain, they'll do it for the good of the planet. They're not just motivated by having friends or fear or just holding on to some really arbitrary system of beliefs. They're flexible, they understand the important goals, and they're moving towards those. Now the highest one that we know about is turquoise. And at the moment, there's not enough people in this meme to determine how the economy would be. But we do know that it's a sacrifice self meme, and we assume that it would be the one that would make hard decisions for the prolonged growth of the planet. And also, they'll see functioning economic systems as more important than nations, if nations even exist. So I think it's important for black people to understand and read this book, because I hear a lot of people acting like economic decisions are made just to hurt black people. Like I've heard even educated black people say, oh, well, they created the housing market bubble just because too many black people were getting good houses. They need to take our houses away. Like there's just a button, like the white man can hit to take all our houses away. And there were no other factors going into it. So, I mean, understanding Memenomics as you see economic cycles or Memenomic cycles, you see they have a certain progression. They start, they grow, and then they fall off. And then a new one comes up, and the same thing happens. And so by getting this bigger picture perspective, you can go through and understand why economic things are happening and what you can do to prepare yourself to stop it. You know, stockpiling gold in your house may not be the best decision, given that an ounce of gold is a lot of money. You don't have that much money. So understanding how money supply works and understanding how different things come together keeps you from making really bad decisions or trying to go down some path you can't even go down that far. So it also prevents you from advocating for antiquated methods that have run their course. So you're not, after reading it and understanding Memenomics, you're not going to be a hardcore socialist or try to go back to like communism or anything like that, because you understand it served its purpose, it did work, as in past tense, and now something new is needed. And once you understand the bigger picture of what's going on, you can make better decisions on what new thing is needed. So I think it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. I'll have a link below this to the Amazon page and his website. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, go to blackleaderanalysis.com. And if you found it helpful and like to make a donation, you can donate at sdandrace@gmail.com. I thank you for your time.